Welcome to the Executive Woman Podcast, Women Changing the Game. I'm your host, Dr. Sheila Robinson, and our mission is to empower women in business, leadership, and entrepreneurship. Each week, we bring you conversations with trailblazing executives, innovative entrepreneurs, and influential leaders who are breaking barriers and reshaping the business landscape. Through these discussions, we aim to provide you with the tools, strategies, and motivation to advance your career, grow your business, and make a lasting impact in your field. Whether you are an inspiring leader, a seasoned executive, or somewhere in between, this podcast is dedicated to supporting your professional journey and fostering a community of empowered women who lift each other up. And today, we're thrilled to have with us Zakiya Thomas. She is the president and CEO of the ERA Coalition and the Fund for Women's Equality. Zakiya's work in advancing gender equality and her leadership in these crucial organizations promises to offer valuable insights into the ongoing fight for women's rights and empowerment. So let's dive in and start changing the game together. But first, I just want to give you a couple of nuggets about her background. She is truly an agent for change. She's working to make equality a reality for all people. She's using her experience as a political strategist and nonprofit manager, leading a diverse coalition of over 280 organizations. Let me repeat that. 280 organizations representing 80 million people. And this community of activists jointly advocates for gender, racial, and reproductive justice, LGBTQ plus rights, and much more under the unifying goal of sex equality. Let's hear from her right now. She's so amazing. Zakiya, thank you for joining us today. We're all about women changing the game. Could you share with our listeners a pivotal moment in your career when you realized you were truly changing the game and how that experience has shaped your journey to becoming the leader you are today?
Well, Dr. Sheila, first of all, thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here with you and to talk about my journey, but also inspire others along their journey as well. So a pivotal moment for me in my career really was early on when I realized that I was actually making less money than the man that I had hired and that I supervised in my very first job. I knew everything. I was well on my way to promotion, but the company was comparing me against a different standard. And so I just wasn't able to overcome that barrier. So from there, I realized if I want to take action, I need to do so for myself. And so I went on to another job. And since then, really the equality that I'm trying to work for now has been my goal and my mission. I really see the Equal Rights Amendment as that next stage of the civil rights movement. We're supposed to have racial equality. We don't really. We do have some semblance of gender equality, but not really. Laws can be rolled back or taken away, which is why we're working for the Equal Rights Amendment to make sure that our rights are enshrined in the Constitution.
Outstanding. I hear how the systemic barriers were in place when you had that pivotal moment. And as you said, there's some progress, but these systems are still in place now, and we have to break these barriers down. And that is why leaders such as yourself is so important during these crucial times. Your background as a political strategist and a nonprofit manager, how has this influenced your leadership style?
So I like to lead by example. So there are tasks that if I'm going to assign something to someone else, I have to make sure I'm willing to do it myself. And I think that's important. For me, the team is the most important aspect of a company because if your people aren't happy and motivated, then it's just not going to work. So both in the nonprofit sector, but in the political sector, I realize thinking of a political campaign as a startup or a small business is a way to really form your impression of what you need to do and how you need to manage your team. But bigger and beyond that really is thinking about what is the impact that we're having in this role. One of the reasons I choose to be a political campaign manager is because I know I have the abilities and skills to put in place people who can actually make a difference in this world. So if I can lend my skills and talents to those individuals so they can be put in places where they can make a difference, then I have to do that. And I feel empowered to do so. One of the things we realize is that Black and brown candidates and women in particular are usually underfunded in their campaigns. They usually don't have the same access to consultants, and they're basically thought of as less than, that they can't actually achieve, and they're undermined throughout the process. So if I can come in and use my skills and talents to help them get to where they need to be, overachieve because people aren't expecting it of them, then that's what I need to do. And that's why I do it. And same with the nonprofit sector. We have a daunting challenge in front of us, and it's my job to make sure that we get there.
Yeah. I love when you said lead by example. Wish we had more leaders that did that, because people want to follow those who they can trust, who they know have their best interests at hand. And that is how you influence your teams. And that's how you build successful teams. For those of us out here that are unfamiliar with your work, can you provide the organization, can you provide an overview of the ERA Coalition and its main objectives?
So as you mentioned, we are a coalition of actually now over 300 partner organizations representing 80 million people across the country. So think of any aspect of equality that you can work towards, whether it's gender justice, LGBTQ plus rights, racial justice, environmental justice, labor rights, violence against women, all of these issues, or violence, domestic violence in general, all of these issues focus on making sure that we have a system that's more equal and fair for everyone. And for us, we all come together under the premise of the Equal Rights Amendment being that vehicle through which we can fight back to maintain our rights. I love that you just said that we aspire to follow someone who we think has our best interests at heart. Right now, unfortunately, the vast majority of the country is represented by people who don't actually have their interests at heart. And so we firmly believe we have the ERA Coalition is a C4 organization, which means we can be politically active. And so we're pushing pieces of legislation to move the Equal Rights Amendment forward because we want to make sure that our elected officials are voting in our interest. We want to make sure that the people that we put in those seats are actually going to move this agenda forward to make sure that our rights are protected, rather than what we see right now, which is a rollback of so many of our rights. So for us, it's really incumbent to make sure that we are moving the agenda forward, that we are that coalition, that backstop against the rollback of rights that we're currently seeing in our country, to make sure that we can actually have the lives that we are entitled to have in this country, that based on the promise of our Constitution and our founding. Most of us don't get to experience that, but we need to make sure that we can, and that's why we're doing this work.
That's outstanding. I could think of so many things and challenges and barriers. We can think of a zillion of them. Now, on a positive lens, what are some of the greatest successes that you are very excited about and that you could share with us?
So there are a number of them. One, we're closer than ever to having the Equal Rights Amendment in the Constitution. It's been passed by both houses of Congress, ratified by the right number of states, and now it just needs to be published in the Constitution. We have never been this close to having true equality in our country. So that excites me. In 2020, the final state needed to ratify, my home state of Virginia did so, which puts us to the stage where we can actually make this happen. And so I think that was a landmark moment for all of us. But we know that once the ERA is in the Constitution, that's not the end. We still need to make sure that we're doing the work to make equality a reality. So for me, it's a little wins every day. It's seeing some of our partner organizations achieving wins in terms of legislation in Congress. It's when we see the Biden administration taking steps to make sure that women's health is counted in research and investing funds into research for women's health. It's things like that that make me proud and excited, because we know we're involved in that effort, and we know we're pushing things forward to make the country a better place.
Outstanding. Do you think that more public education and advocacy is needed on gender equality issues?
Definitely. I think that we can't stress enough how much gender inequality is baked into our system, just like racial inequality is. Mm-hmm. I like to harken it back to, there was a time where you could discriminate against someone based on race. Now it's not so easy. You can still do it. People still do, but it's not baked into our laws to the same degree. Right now, gender is baked into our laws and our social concepts, so that our LGBTQ brothers and sisters are still can still be discriminated against. You can't because of someone's religious ideation. Let's not forget that it wasn't so long ago that people could use their religion or their views to block other people from advancing in society. And this should be no different. That's why I call this the next civil rights era. But I do think that there's a lot that we have done to move the needle forward. And I think there's still more work that we can do. And I think when we come together and all work together to move not just ourselves forward, but everyone else, that's when we're actually going to make things happen.
Yeah. So what is the pie in the sky dream? I know that you shared, I know that things have to be passed, through Congress and everything. But as far as those listeners, what would be the pie in the sky? What would be some great things that could support these initiatives? Basically, what can we do?
So we actually are launching our Elect Equality campaign on July 4th, so on Independence Day this year. And that's really a campaign to show people where their candidates stand on gender equality, the Equal Rights Amendment in particular, but gender equality on a broader scale. That's the first step. You need to be informed before you go to the polls. You need to see, are my legislators doing what they need to be doing to advance my rights, or are they focusing on their special interests, which are usually themselves, and getting people and getting funding for their campaigns? The first thing is always going to be inform yourself and vote. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing. And if you're in a safe district, like I'm in a safe district, I know my representatives will do what I want them to. Talk to people who aren't, who actually wish that they could have the same level of protections that you have in your community. And if maybe they don't, I believe everything that you believe in, but try to have conversations with people without changing their mind to show them why these things are important to you and why they could be helpful for other people. We've forgotten how to talk to each other. We're so polarized in our politics that we don't take advantage of the opportunity to just have conversations. We shut down instead of opening up and having a real dialogue about where we think this country should go and what our beliefs are. So the top two things I always say are vote and talk to someone without trying to change their mind. Because when you start to do that, you build community. And that's really what we need to get back to, is community in this country, because we've lost it. You're either on one side or the other, where most people are really in the middle. We need to bring that middle together.
Okay, listeners, you heard that Zakiya shared that there is power in knowledge and information, and there is impact in your vote. And those are two things that we desperately need: power and impact. And you have it, you have access to it. Get the knowledge, the information you need, and vote. Okay, so let's pivot a little bit. You are such an amazing leader yourself. Let's pivot a little bit to advice to those listeners that aspire to have a leadership role such as yourself and be able to impact change. And I call this purposeful leadership. What advice would you give to women aspiring to have a leadership role in advocacy or a field similar to this?
So in any role, if you want to be a leader, you have to be confident in yourself. And I know as women, we are often taught that we shouldn't be confident. We shouldn't put ourselves forward over other people, but we have to. We know that when women are in positions of power, the world changes for the better for everyone. So in order for us to get to those positions, we have to be confident in ourselves and our ability. Think about how far you've come in life to this point. You wouldn't have gotten there if you weren't successful in so many ways and someone else was confident in your abilities. So take that confidence, internalize it, and push it forward so that you can do the most good for your community, for your job, for whomever you're trying to help uplift. And the other part is, do be humble. At times, you need to know when to step back and let other people shine and let other people work through things, and when you need to take charge and be the one driving it forward. So understanding your role in the different times in your life where you'll need to change those roles will help you be a better leader, because you'll understand more about what it takes for everyone else to come to the table also.
That's awesome. So what about mentorship being in your career? Do you have any tips for getting and finding a good mentor? Because I truly, people think that, that's just a saying, a trend. But I truly believe a mentor can make a world of a difference in your leadership journey.
You're absolutely right. Your mentor will change throughout your career because you're going to be at different points. So early on, especially, I would always find usually women who took me under their wing. They saw the potential that I had, and so they invested their time and energy in me. And that's important, because you have to appreciate that if someone's willing to do that for you, they see something, that value in you that they want to help nurture. And so take advantage of that. Learn from them, grow, use their networks, and to explore more of the world, and to see what you like, what you don't like, and how you can actually improve your leadership style by listening to someone else or observing them and getting coached along the way. I can't understate enough how important mentorship is, and the need to make sure that if there's a time and point where that mentorship has run its natural course, move on to the next one. And you'll always have that person in your life. I like to call them cheerleaders. Every stage of my life, I've had cheerleaders who've helped propel me forward. And they give advice, they make connections, and they help guide you when you have difficult decisions. And That's really important because you don't have to stand alone. You can have people stand with you in your leadership role in ways that can help advance you and the people around you.
I love that you said cheerleaders because it needs to be trusted, confident, and people that have your best interests at hand. And just because you see someone and want someone to be your mentor, if they're not your cheerleader, like she said, that they're not cheering you on and they're doing this just as a task to check off boxes, that's not the right mentor for you. Make sure that it is, like she said, somebody cheering you on and that you've created your own personal board of advisors. And I love, love, love that you said that it will change over time as you grow and evolve and change. That need will change. That person should change. So as we near the end of our conversation, you know, I do want to bring up that there has been a recent backlash on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Unfortunately, that's a whole nother story in itself. I could go in my reasons why, but it is so unfortunate. And during these times, there are all kinds of challenges and setbacks for organizations and individuals. What would you share some strategies on maintaining our resilience during this time and how we can stay motivated while facing these setbacks?
So there are always going to be people who feel threatened when we move forward. You've seen a large number of African-American, Black women in particular, moving into positions of power where we get to it's basically a glass cliff where we get there, but there's no support and we are then going to fall off and people put a lot of pressure on us, but they don't give us the support to move things forward. And those are things that goes into the DEI conundrum that we're in, because they want to have this vision of a more equitable company, but they don't put in place the tools and the support systems that are needed to make that happen. So I think we're in a moment right now where we're still trying to adjust and figure out how do we deal with the backlash that we're seeing, because this backlash isn't just for us, it's for pretty much anyone who's not a cis white male is getting backlash in this country right now. And so we have to keep moving forward as a group and bring people along with us and realize that we have allies across the board, that if we work together, we can actually make the country what we want. That we'll bring anyone along who wants to join us, and those who don't want to, well, we'll see you at the finish line. But this is what we have to do, is work together to make sure that when one community is threatened, we're standing up for them, so that when it's time for them to stand up for us, they will do the same thing. And I think this DEI backlash we're seeing is no different. They're trying to separate us and keep us apart and saying, well, you're better because you're this, or look at how bad these people are. Let's stop that. Let's focus on the fact that we all benefit from this, and we all have to work together to make sure that it continues so that we can actually improve the society that we have.
Thank you, Zakiya. And you're so right. And when we're talking about resilience, it doesn't mean that we don't feel it. We feel this, but like Zakiya said, we've got to keep going. Resilience about recovering quickly and keep going and looking at the end game and working together, as she said. I do want you to have the final message and share with our audience about the importance of getting involved in the fight for gender equality, and any lasting remarks that you would like to share.
Well, first of all, thank you again for having me. This has been a phenomenal conversation. But I think we all need to realize that we are at a precipice right now. Our democracy is literally going to be on the ballot because we have forces in this country who are looking to take away our rights and to take us back to a point where most of us weren't in a position where we could be effective or live our true lives because of the systems that were in place. If we want to change things, if we want to maintain, if not improve our nation and our society, we have to act. And that means civic engagement. That means supporting organizations like myself. We are eracoalition.org, who provide a place for people to come together and to move the needle together and to move these movements together and work forward. Support organizations in your community that uplift people, individuals, groups that are marginalized or who do need support. You can volunteer, you can give money. Your time and your money are both desperately needed right now, because not only are we seeing a rollback, we're also seeing a defunding of programs towards women and girls in particular. And that's not by accident. The systems work as intended. So we have to break those systems. And how we do that is by civic engagement, coming together, talking to people, and really building the communities we want to see. So the top two things this year in particular are vote for people who have your interest in mind. and vote and make sure that other people are voting. We understand that sitting this one out is not making a stand. It's giving your vote away. So make sure that you exercise your vote. It's like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. Let's do that first and foremost, and let's bring our communities back together, because we can't rely on politicians or special interests whose goal is to divide us to continue to do that, because none of us win. They win. So if we want to win, we have to come together and we have to work together to build the society we want.
Well said. And for our listeners who want to connect with you and contribute, tell us where we can follow you on social media, your website, and how they can be more of a part of your organization if they do want to give.
So we are ERA Coalition, and you can find us online, and our social media handle is ERA Coalition, at ERA Coalition. You can visit our website, eracoalition.org. And I'd also encourage you to support our partner organizations. There are over 300 partner organizations in our coalition who are all doing phenomenal work across the country to help improve the society that we have. So let's support the overall goals, support the individuals, and let's make sure that we move together and we're working coordinated efforts to move the needle in November.
Thank you so much, Zakiya. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Zakiya, and your experiences with us. Your journey and your dedication to empowering women are truly inspiring. And to our listeners, we hope that you found this conversation as enlightening as we did. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. Your support helps us continue bringing you these valuable discussions. And remember, you can find the links to the resources that Zakiya mentioned in today's episode, as well as information about her organization. Thank you so much, and see you next time. Don't forget to keep inspiring others, to keep striving, keep growing, and keep supporting each other. And that is what we are about at Executive Woman. It's women changing the game. And together we can do this. Have a great day.